I love a good sexy spicy fragrance. In fact, I think it should have its own official perfume category, sexy spicy. There are many of us out there who love sexy spicy bomb fragrances because they get us attention. People think we're sexy when we wear these fragrances. Without these fragrances, no sexy. With these, hell yeah. So maybe you want to smell more spicy, maybe you want to smell sexier, maybe you're not getting enough sex and you want your fragrance to help you with that. If you just want to spice up your life, spice up your wife, spice anyone up, these fragrances are the ones. In this video, I'm bringing to you a collection of sexy, spicy bombs that will always guarantee to elicit sexual responses. These are some of the best sexy, spicy fragrances ever made of all time, since the dawn of time, since the beginning of humanity. Let's go. I'd probably say that spicy fragrances are the ones that are most often called sexy. And I'm not just saying I think they're sexy. These fragrances are ones that I've heard people say are sexy, both to my face and watching YouTube videos. So we're going to get into these. These are my favorite sexy spicy scents. The first one was brought to my attention by maybe the sexiest, spiciest reviewer on YouTube way back before I started my channel. It was Jeremy Fragrance. Good old Jezza put me on to this modern classic, La Nuit Delon. This is a big, fresh, spicy cardamom bomb. It also has caraway, which I've no idea what it smells like, but Fragrantica tells me a sharp and sweet, lightly spicy note coming from the essential oil of caraway seeds when steam distilled. So there we go, sexy and steamy. I'd describe this fragrance as fun, sexy, but classy as well. It's got a refinement to it. Unlike some of the sexy, spicy fragrances in this video, this isn't a massive explosion of sexy spices. This is a little bit more subtle, a little bit more laid back and refined, but the spiciness is still there and it is very sexy. And there will be plenty of people out there that think the more subtle spiciness is even sexier. The slight issue with this fragrance, which isn't quite so sexy, is that the performance is not the best. When you spray it on, it smells fantastic. That first hour or two, it does fade away quite quickly. It'd be great if it lasted a little bit longer, if you can get hold of La Nuit Delon Bleu Electrique. That is a very similar smell, does last a little bit longer. But if you are someone who wants to wear a sexy, spicy fragrance, but you don't want anything that is too loud and obnoxious, then this one is probably right for you. Next up is one of the greatest sexy spicy fragrances that I've ever smelled and that my wife has ever smelled on me. She told me that. This is the one that she's given me the best compliment of any fragrance I've ever worn in my life. Initio's Oud for greatness. Saffron and nutmeg bring the spice. In this case, it's a punchy, dry spiciness. Two great real-world experiences that really cement this as one of my favorite sexy, spicy fragrances. The first, I've already mentioned, my wife smelled me wearing this and she said, whatever you're wearing, please wear it again because I absolutely love it. I think the one I'd worn previous to that was Tuscan leather, which she told me to never wear again. So I was quite pleased for her to ask me to wear this one. Another experience I had was in one of the sexiest places on earth. It was New York City, and it was there I met Demi Rawling for the first time, and she was singing the praises of this fragrance. She was wearing it. I'd never smelled it before. She said, oh, you must smell it. So she leant in, she let me smell her neck, and I smelled Oud for greatness. And I thought, yeah, that is indeed a sexy smelling spicy fragrance. Once Demi had removed her neck from my nose, I decided this was one I needed in my collection. It's one of my favorites. It's loud, it's got great performance. If you want a sexy, dry, spicy bomb of a fragrance that explodes with sexiness, that is gonna last, that will get you noticed, Oud for greatness is indeed very great. Here's the elixir that kicked off the elixir trend and is still the best of all of them. This is Sauvage Elixir. Cardamom brings the coolness, cinnamon brings a cozy, comforting spiciness, and nutmeg brings the nutmegginess. How do you describe nutmeg? It's nutmeggy, but I like it. Lots of spiciness sitting on top of that soapy, clean Sauvage DNA. Really amped up lavender, so you get a nice classical aromatic cologne type smell from this. All in all, it works superbly well. Just don't overspray it. This one can get a little obnoxious if you do have too many pulls of the trigger. To quote the boys on the Cologne podcast, this one indeed has some proper meaty clackers. One very prominent female YouTuber YouTuber by the name of Curly Scent adores this fragrance. Andrea says this fragrance makes her go weak at the knees. I have indeed worn this in her presence, and I gotta say, her knees looked pretty unstable. Overspray at your peril, because those weak knees will turn into a knee in the groin because you've just assaulted someone's nostrils. Never assault anyone's nostrils. Nostrils are pretty sensitive. Creed's Aventus, one of the sexiest men's fragrances of all time. But how do you make it sexier? Well, you add a whole bunch of spices and call it Absolute Aventus. And spice it up they did with pink pepper, nutmeg, cloves, ginger, cinnamon, and cardamom. When I hear people talking about Aventus and compliments, and this is what I've experienced myself as well, you're more likely to get complimented wearing Aventus by a man. It just seems like men love the smell of Aventus on other men. But I think things are a little bit different with this one, because we know how the ladies love the spices because they find them sexy, and because there's more spices in this, they're going to find this a sexier version of Aventus. So if you love the Aventus smell, but if you want more sexy spiciness, you want to impress people a little bit more with the sexiness in the fragrance, then Creed's Absolute Aventus is going to bring the extra sexy spiciness. This next fragrance is a special one to me. It's one of my favorite fragrances of all time. It started my journey down the rabbit hole into fragrances, which is why I started this channel. This is Tom Ford's Oudwood. Cardamom and pepper are the spices. It's not in your face spicy, but another laid back, confident, spicy type of scent. I would say that this has a smooth, sexy spiciness. Despite it not being the best performing scent in the world, I still find it performs fine and it lasts okay. Generally, I've received good compliments from this. I've heard people online saying that they find this a really sexy man's fragrance. I have been complimented on this by a lady in a real world situation, not a made up real world situation, a real world situation. Oudwood is an amazing scent. If you want a fragrance that is a more refined type of spicy, Oudwood is the one that may get you more sex. We have to talk about Middle Eastern fragrance brands when we talk about spices, because we've got all that spice market, sexy spiciness. One of the Middle Eastern brands that does spicy so well is one of my favorite niche brands of all time. It's Amouage. This one is Boundless. The spiciness in Boundless is coming from cardamom, ginger, LME and cacao. The fresh spiciness is coming from the LME, cardamom and ginger. There's a warm spiciness coming from the cacao, and this clashing together of warm and fresh spices creates this fresh, sexy, spicy explosion. Of course, you get the quality of ingredients you can expect from Amouage. This is definitely one of the more wearable, more mass appealing Amouage fragrances to wear. This is all smooth, no sharp edges, not too complex, not challenging in the slightest. Boundless is bound to impress. I've mentioned quite a lot about sexy, spicy, bomby fragrances in this video, but this next fragrance is the one that is probably the spiciest and the bombiest of them all, so much so that's what they called it. From Viktor & Rolf, it's Spice Bomb Extreme. And a spicy bomb it is indeed, with caraway, cumin, black pepper, cinnamon and saffron. A gorgeous explosion of sexy spices. Throw in the vanilla and the tobacco and those things just increase the sexiness of this fragrance. Yes, this is one that people talk about wearing in the winter, and it does work really well in the cooler temperatures in the autumn and winter. It's probably my favorite spice bomb, although I gotta say, I love the original. I think it's a fantastic fragrance. Bit of a game changer in what it did when it was released, and it might surprise you to know that I don't own it and never have owned it. I know it's a crime against fragrances. I don't know why I've never bought it, but I love it. Whenever I go into a store, I always smell it and think, I should really buy that. But then I remember all the other sexy, spicy fragrances I have at home, and I think, can one man be too sexy? Do I need another sexy, spicy fragrance? Probably not. And one of the reasons for that is because I own this fragrance from Parfum de Marly. This is the masterpiece that is the sexy, spicy Layton. The spicy culprits in this one are cardamom and pepper. They come together to create what is surely one of the sexiest spicy fragrances of all time. Again, this is a beautiful explosion of fresh spicy and warm spicy. If you like Le Nuit Delon but you find it a little bit weak, then you want to get your nose on Leighton. It is certainly much stronger and longer lasting. This is the definitive spicy fragrance that has those meaty clackers. I wear this fragrance so much because it's got great versatility, excellent sexability. If you want to smell sexy, throw a leg over Leighton and ride that spicy pony all the way to Sexy Town. Now, I don't want you thinking that spicy fragrances are all about being sexy. I've barely even mentioned that in this video. You can just wear them because you enjoy the spiciness, the punchiness, the way that spices just jump and ping and zing off the skin. Sexy is just a term that YouTubers use to try and get more clicks on their videos. And despite the over-reliance on the word sexy when applying it to fragrances to really appeal to all those needy, insecure men out there, it kind of works. So whether you need it or not, as a famous group of girls once said, these fragrances will definitely spice up your life. Let me know which your favourite sexy spicy fragrances are down in the comments. If I don't own it, then maybe I should get it in my life. Apologies if you found this video too sexy and too spicy, but this was information I just had to share with you. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, you'll see me in the next video.